Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Dolan's Dugout. I'm Ramon Scott, Steve Dolan. At the bottom of your screen, he's the host, of course, of Dolan's Dugout. Steve, your special guest tonight is Adam Paul of EC Prep. Last week, we got the news that the Grossmont Conference could immediately change its plans to realign the Grossmont Hills League and Grossmont Valley League as soon as next season. We know that they were going to already put the Monte Vista Monarchs in the Grossmont Hills League and put the El Capitan Vaqueros and Valhalla Norsemen in the Grossmont Valley League. That was the original plan. Then we heard that maybe we were going to get a different plan that might include just 4 teams in the Grossmont Hills League, those 4 teams that really seem to be away from those other teams as far as their power ranking is concerned. So, Steve, this has been a hot button issue for both of you guys. So, what's the latest?
Well, Ramon, my thing is, I said it a couple weeks ago, actually, I love the fact that they really did go to just 4 teams in the Grossmont Hills League, but my proposal would be 3 leagues each with 4 teams. Of course, the number 1 league would be with, of course, Helix, Steel Canyon, Grossmont, Granite Hills. The mid-sized league, let's say, so to speak, is to drop El Capitan and Valhalla into that league with West Hills and, yes, let's add Christian. Christian's right in the middle of El Cajon. We have several schools in El Cajon. Christian is a East County school, not a city school. And then in the 3rd league, we would have Santana, El Cajon Valley, Monte Vista, and Mount McGill. I think that makes perfect sense. I think on a competitive, balanced nature, I don't think it gets any better than that. Adam Paul, what say you on this?
Yeah, with the Hills League the way it is, I mean, there's no way that, I mean, no disrespect to the El Capitan Vaqueros and the Valhalla Norsemen, but there's no way that they can compete with the Helixes and the Steel Canyons and the Granite Hill. Maybe they'll give them a game for a short while, but in reality, those teams are just it's gonna be a bloodbath on the scoreboard, in my opinion. What you're suggesting, I do like that, but from what I've heard, it's gonna be 7 and 4. Supposedly.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, as I say, I'd like to see 3 4-team leagues that be very competitive. Of course, the one thing you would have to do would be to add Christian, and I get it that Christian's a private school. They're not in the Grossmont district at all. But here's my thing about Christian. I think that would make it very competitive. I'm sure that there is a concern among Grossmont district people that Christian would, quote, recruit. In a sense, Christian is recruiting. My wife and I happen to go to Shadow Mountain Community Church, which is where the Christian campus is. Their recruiting this year was not for football. Their recruiting was they want more kids in the school district. They have about 1,100 now. That's K through 12. Reason why, and it's a California thing. I mean, a lot of people notice the state's getting more and more liberal, which doesn't necessarily coincide with the way they believe there. And they're trying to they tried to recruit students there, again, not on the basis of football, but on the basis of their beliefs. I mean, for instance, a Christian, you can still discipline kids. It isn't like the state of California now where a kid can mouth off to a teacher and too bad for the teacher. The kid's staying in class. You can't do anything about it. Well, a Christian, you can do something about it. And that's why Christian and the Christian schools were recruiting people, again, not for football, but for education.
Money, you got anything?
No, I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm not kind of webcam, so I'm not sure that I could ever get any of these athletic directors to acquiesce to my request. But I think right now, given the structure of the conference itself, seeing these 4 teams, we know that Steel Canyon and Helix are elite teams in the county. Granite Hills and Grossmont are right outside those top teams, and it looks to be settling in that way. I understand why they might have said that Monte Vista looked like they were on the upswing, but they had some top talent over the last several years that kind of helped them, and I think we're seeing them kind of rebuild right now. It's going to be a struggle for them in league. They're as contentious as anyone, but right now, if you look at the ratings, they're kind of falling down behind those other teams. So it just looks to me like those 4 top teams right now. I guess the argument is nobody wants a 4-team league, but I think in this case it's something that they're going to do. I mean, it seems like it's a sure thing the way it's been portrayed to me. I don't know if anything's happened this week or last week since the news kind of broke.
Yeah, it's and like go back to Steve's comment about people in the Grossmont district are afraid that Christian recruiting and stuff, but you're already got Steel Canyon and Helix, they're charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been belief over the years that both that charter schools recruit. So I don't know, it's a weird deal. I don't get it. I don't get the argument that to deny a spot for Christians because you're afraid that they're recruiting when in fact you're in a league with both Steel Canyon and Helix, like I said, who they've been tossed around over the last 15 to 20 just about 20 years. So I don't know, it's weird.
It sure is, Adam. I mean, again, my thing, the reason I would add Christian would be for competitive balance. I mean, if you had a league with El Capitan, Valhalla, and West Hills and Christian, I mean, there's some great rivalries in there. I mean, Christian and Valhalla, I mean, Christian's used Valhalla Stadium before. I mean, El Cap, West Hills, you have the Burner rivalry every year for the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy. There's great rivalries there. Then if you went to the first league I proposed, Helix, Steel Canyon, right now, the top two teams in San Diego County, according to the computer rankings, Grossmont, Granite Hills, there's a great rivalry there too. Monte Vista, Mount McGill, Battle of Spring Valley, Santana, Elko and Valley, there's, those schools aren't that far apart either. So I just think let's make it competitive. And again, we're just talking football right now. I mean, the other sports, that's a different topic. But I just want to see a competitive nature. Because, Adam, I think you alluded to it. I know you've been to most El Cap games. Like, we do the games on 97.3 The Fan. I know you've done reports each week. And, I mean, you've seen El Cap. El Cap's been competitive. El Cap's 0-5. When El Cap plays Helix, if that game's the odds on that game having a running clock in the fourth quarter, I know, Moni, you're good on odds. I'd say the odds are about 1-4 that game has a running clock by the fourth quarter. I don't know. But that's me.
I mean, well, you look at the stats based upon last year. It was, Noah had, I think, 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half alone. I want to say, yeah. Like I said, in all fairness to El Cap, seen them quite a few times this year, and they're the best 0-5 team in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
if that counts for anything. But like you said, if there were odds, and Moni, we talked about this on the review show. I want to say it's at least a 35-point spread if there was such a thing in high school football. Other teams besides Christian that have been brought up are Patrick Henry, and then Sarah was brought up a few years ago. I know Patrick Henry a couple years ago. I don't know. I mean, they need to do something. They really do, because like I said, the proposal from what I've heard, like I said, this is not 100%. Is 7-4. 7 in the valley, 4 in the hills. I don't know if I like that. I mean, what are your thoughts, Steve?
Well, I guess, Adam, I don't like it because my issue with 4 and 7 is the league with 7 is going to have 6 league games, so you'd be starting like in week 5 with your league, and the league with 4 teams will be starting in weeks 8, 9, and 10 with your league games. And what that would do too, if you had 4 teams in one league and 7 in the other, you'd have so-called Grossmont cross-conference games, like, for instance, last week, El Capitan, West Hills. I just think 4-7 sounds horrible, but I think going back to our original proposal, I think 4, 4, and 4 sounds perfect. And actually, to me, 4, 4, and 4 kind of sounds like the NFL has, although they have 8 divisions instead of 3, and I think that would be perfect.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And I think that would balance things out. It'd be like the European soccer model, where say the team, at the top, if they don't do well, they can go down to the middle, and the bottom can go up to the middle, and the middle can go to the top, and be like a rotating deal, like the European soccer model.
Yeah, and Adam, I know one of the things that's going to be hard, though, when you talk releaguing, I know that, it takes a lot of meetings. I mean, I used to work out at San Diego State University, and I mean, the administrators, they meet and they meet and they meet. I mean, a guy that I used to work with, he gave me a cartoon once where the boss says to all the employees, and we're going to keep having these meetings until we find out why nothing gets done around here, which is true. They just meet and meet and meet. I mean, in things like this, you can really decide fairly quickly. It's not something that you have to beat around the bush and all. Let's just throw a proposal out there and let's just go after it. Again, it doesn't have to be discussed and cussed and discussed and cussed. Let's just do it. I mean, and again, the 4 and 7, that's just a little weird to me too. I mean, the 5 and 6, the way it is now, that's better. But again, my concern about the 5 and the 6 right now is teams like El Capitan and Valhalla up against Helix and Steel Canyon. I understand Valhalla, Steel Canyon, there's a good rivalry there. But on the other hand, when they play, I don't know, Moni, you're the odds guy. I would imagine that Steel Canyon would probably be favored by 28 points or so in that game. I don't know.
Look at this week's game with Helix and El Capitan and the Max Preps. You punch it in to look at the projection. The thing broke, okay?
Oh, no. That's no surprise. That's no surprise.
Christian, one other time, did enter the Grossmont Conference in a league. It was just, I believe, a 1-year trial. I don't remember the circumstances surrounding it. Maybe I should go back. Maybe I should have gone back and looked that up. Obviously, it did not pan out at the time, and I think it was only for 1 year. And I think what you're saying, though, Steve, I think holds true for the conference right now. They are showing the flexibility, kind of winging it here at the last minute, even to switch leagues up next year. So I think that kind of says, we could look at it, even though we want to say that we're doing it on a 2-year basis so we can, have good planning, know where everybody's going. It's not out of the question to say, look, this team is not going to compete up here. We have just basically 9 months until the next season. We could indeed change the league if we wanted to, if we needed to. So it does show a little bit of flexibility there by the conference. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, and Moni, if Christian came into this league, we're proposing with El Capitan, West Hills, and Valhalla, how far is Christian from each of those schools? I mean, it's right there. Christian's not going to be making those long trips into the city or up to Cathedral Canyon or something like that. It makes geographical sense, too, because let's face it, in California now, we're all about, no pollution and all that. And if they stay closer to home, there's going to be less of the emissions or whatever it is we're worried about nowadays. I mean, let's keep Christian close to home. I mean, say there's how many schools are there, in El Cajon, Grossmont, Granite Hills, Valhalla, El Cajon Valley's, of course, in Holland. There's a lot of schools in El Cajon, and let's just keep Christian home. Let's have Christian play in El Cajon. I'd be curious, to see what the Christian people think about this. I know they'd have to be very careful in what they say because they're not in the league, but I just think it makes geographical sense. I think it makes competitive sense. I just think it makes sense, period.
Adam, who's Christian's current rival? Santa Fe Christian? Do they have a rival? Can you even think of who it might be?
Say it again. What's the question?
Christian's rival. Who would Christian's rival be right now?
Santa Fe Christian. That's always the big rivalry game with them, and it has been for quite some time. At least that's what I was told by the Santa Fe Christian people last year. When a bunch of us predicted that Christian with Brad Jeremiah was going to beat Santa Fe Christian by a lot of points, and then Santa Fe Christian went out and just basically rolled them pretty good. If you remember, guys, a long time ago, and I'm trying to think within the last 20 years. Remember the old Harbor League with Christian, Madison, Claremont, and a couple of the other schools. And there was talk that, went back, I want to say it was the early 2000s, that they were going to put El Cajon in the Harbor League. Back when El Cajon, if you remember that, I don't know if you guys remember that, there was discussion of because of the lack of competition, because El Cajon wasn't very good. They were trying, all those other schools were not very good at the time. This was pre, Rick Jackson at Madison and, Claremont, pre them being state powerhouses, basically. And, that I believe it even went to a vote, and obviously it didn't go through. But I know there was talk back in the day of putting El Cajon Valley in that old Harbor League for football wise for competition.
And there's the perfect word, competition. I think that's what we're talking about tonight is we need things to be more competitive. I understand can't do anything about this year, but I understand El Capitan several years ago went to the state final, did beat Helix by a touchdown, got to the state finals and almost won. But nowadays, it's funny because I know I've said it before, but the El Cap kids now are in a league way over their heads. They're basically being punished for what the team did several years ago by making the state finals when the kids are on the team now were in elementary school. And I don't know that they should be punished for that. I just think, again, especially for El Capitan, it's not for El Capitan and Valhalla to go back down. I know, Adam, you said El Capitan's the best 0-5 team in the county, but the issue now, if they don't beat Valhalla, El Capitan's most likely going to go 0-10 because I just don't see El Capitan beating Helix, Steel Canyon, Grossmont, or Granite Hills. If that happens, it'll be a monumental upset.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a huge upset. Yeah, you're right, Steve. If they don't beat Valhalla, I don't know who they'll beat. I honestly don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, Adam, because I know you've been to several El Capitan games. I don't know if you're going to be there this Friday. Which game will you be at this Friday?
I'll be at Steel Canyon Granite.
Oh, very good. I hope you do a report because this Friday, actually, just so you know, the prep football has been on radio.com only so far. This Friday, it goes over to 97.3 The Fan, which is the Padres station, because the Padres season officially is done. Although it was done weeks ago, it's officially over now. So this Friday, it'll be Carlsbad at Torrey Pines. I believe the next Friday, a week from now, 9 days from now, will be Grossmont at Granite Hills, which again is a good game. I hope we do that game. That's what they're saying we're going to do so far, and I think that'll be a great game to do because, again, when you look at the rankings, East County is as good as anybody this year in football. Especially with Helix, Steel Canyon, Grossmont having lost to Madison, but Grossmont still got up there getting some votes. So is Granite Hills in the top 10 poll.
Yeah, they're either the second or third best league in all of San Diego, with 4 or 5 of the teams, getting votes, which is awesome. I don't think that's happened in quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to stay that way. If the season were to end today, Helix and Steel Canyon would be hosting the Open Division games. Although I think when they play each other, if they're still 1 and 2, whoever does not win that game may still get the Open Division, but they're probably not going to be hosting. Of course, there's a long way to go because Cathedral Catholic and St. Augustine have both lost to Helix, and the Holy Bowl, I believe, is in 3 weeks from now up at Cathedral this year. So that game will have a bearing too on who the so-called Final Four will be. I'm just curious because I think at this point, Helix and Steel Canyon are the leaders in the clubhouse right now, and I think Helix certainly will be there, and Steel Canyon has a great chance to be there this year too in that Open Division.
Yeah, it's Helix, Cathedral, and Saints, and then whoever wants that 4 spot.
What we saw in the latest CIF rankings this week had Helix still number 1, Cathedral now number 2, Steel Canyon 3, and Saints 4. And again, the power rankings this is the rankings without a point differential that goes into that, and that one could shake down a little bit, making it kind of borderline for maybe 1 or 2 of those teams. So we'll see. So if they want to know what a couple of old hacks or 3 old hacks guys think about the potential of releaguings, they can go back and watch this and hear us probably just mess it all up. But
they definitely need to do something because the next year, 2+ years, unless something happens, the demographics are changing, like you said, at El Cap and various other schools. Something needs to be done.
All right. Well, Steve, great job with your show today. Adam Paul from Eastern Preps. You can catch him this week and every week, and he's going to that big game. And Steve, you'll be out at a county game, but coming back into the East County next week at 97.3 The Fan, Grossmont and Granite on the radio. That sounds like something I'm going to want to tune into. All right. All right, Steve Dolan, Adam Paul, thank you so much. And I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ramon, for having us.